ICE is the new KKK. Lanez Ambrosio can be heard telling officers, quote, I was born and raised right here, unquote. Still, he was pushed to the ground and says that an officer aimed a stun gun at him. He was subsequently arrested and held in a cell at a Customs Border Protection Station for 6 hours. Audio in the video catches the unidentified officers debriefing and appearing to make light of the stun gun use. "You're funny, bro," one officer can be overheard saying to another, followed by laughter. Another officer says, "They're starting to resist more now," to which an officer replies, quote, "We're going to end up shooting some of them." Later in the footage, the officers moved on to the general celebration. "Goddamn, woohoo, nice," and the talk of the potential bonuses that they'll be getting. Quote, "Just remember, you can smell that $30,000 bonus," unquote. That's from The Guardian. I began writing this column on July 25th, the day Emmett Lewis Till was born in 1941. On August 28th of 1955, I was 4 years old when Emmett was kidnapped and brutally murdered by Roy Bryant and his half-brother J.W. Milam because his wife said Emmett flirted with her. From Heather Cox Richardson, and I quote, "In September 1955, an all-white jury took just over an hour to find Bryant and Milam not guilty. One member of the jury said, quote, 'We wouldn't have taken so long if we hadn't stopped to drink pop,' unquote." Immune from prosecution, Bryant and Milam told their story to Look magazine for $4,000. They said they had kidnapped and beaten Till to frighten him. But when he refused to beg for mercy, they drove him to the river, Milam then asked, "You still think you're as good as I am?" And when Till answered, "Yeah," they shot him in the head. They tied a 75-pound cotton gin fan around his neck using barbed wire, and they threw him in the river. Quote, "What else could we do?" Milam said. "He was hopeless. I'm no bully. I never heard of the N-word in my life. I like the N-word, but I like them in their place. I know how to work them. But I just decided it was time for a few people to get put on notice. As long as I live and can do anything about it, the N-word, they're going to stay in their place." After Till's body had been recovered from the Tallahatchie River, the county sheriff directed that the body be buried quickly. But Till's mother said no. She insisted her son's body be returned to Chicago. There she insisted on an open casket funeral, and quote, "Let the world see what I have seen," she said. What else could they have done? Perhaps they might not have been ignorant, racist murderers. They could have said to Bryant's wife, "Hey, he's just a kid." But no, their fear and hatred for African Americans is baked into their DNA. Their ancestors had bought and sold blacks. They had beaten blacks into submission by using the same bullying tactics that we're seeing today. Many of our Southern brothers and sisters have never gotten over the loss of the Civil War. Their hatreds for African Americans and people who are not white still exist today. What's changed is that they've now been put in charge. Go back and look at the videos taken in the 40s and 50s and 60s. Watch how Americans treated their fellow Americans worse than dogs. Put the video on pause and stare into their eyes. Their eyes are full of fear of those that they know they've done wrong. Look into the eyes of the white people who allowed their fear to metastasize into hate. And look at what they did to people for no other reason than they had the misfortune of being born black. Now, fast forward. Back then, they wore hoods and burned crosses, beat and murdered people. Today, they don masks, are heavily armed, and are beating people, and before long will be murdering people. People who came here to keep from being beaten and killed from where they fled. The excuse to abuse people is that they're here illegally. It's just an excuse. Many of the people being kidnapped were on their way to a courthouse to continue the process of becoming a legal American. All we've done is exchange African Americans for undocumented workers. For now. How long before this racist, violent president orders these henchmen to go after his political opponents, protesters, or simply anyone he doesn't like? If it was you and or your loved ones who tried to resist, they'd be beaten and arrested too. The comparison to what is happening in America today is hauntingly similar to what happened in Nazi Germany in the 30s. There was a time when good men and women stood up to authoritarianism. In the 1940s and 50s, Ed Sullivan, the host of The Ed Sullivan Show, refused to be bullied by the racists and fascists of his day. When told by his employers to not shake the hands of his black guests, he defied them. He shook every hand. He did more to promote black artists than most other Americans. He never backed down. He looked those hateful people in the eye, and he stood his ground. Now is the time to be more like Ed Sullivan. I'm Bob Stannard, and this is The View from my place. Thanks for watching.